Hi, this is Shoshanah Shear, and in this video I'll do a little bit of a change. It's sort of my art. In this video we're talking about our books, and I'll be doing a little bit of a tutorial. I was sent a question from a friend after a discussion about my husband's book, Parshah, in just 2 minutes, and I'm going to be using this book to explain a couple of things in a minute or two. There were some very useful practical questions that were posed, and I thought if I put it together as a little video, a lot of other people can benefit on this channel also. So if you've wondered how to put a book together and how to get it onto Amazon, I hope this video will help somewhat. There are other tutorials out there and people who know a lot more than I do, but I'll share what it is that I've learned along my journey. And if you have any questions, I invite you to pop them in the comments section below or send me an email, and I'll be happy to either answer in the comments or put together another little video or direct you to somewhere else that you can find your answers. So the first question is, how did I figure out how to get a book onto Amazon, or how to do this whole self-publishing process? Well, my mom had asked me, could I help her to get to put together a teenage novel that she'd just written, and she wanted to get it onto Amazon. A friend of hers who had recently published a book in this manner had said to her to use CreateSpace. I knew nothing about CreateSpace. I hadn't considered selling anything on Amazon. I knew about purchasing from Amazon, but didn't really do any buying on Amazon in those days. And so I really knew nothing, and I decided to tackle it like a good occupational therapist, and I analyzed the situation, and I'll speak to you in a minute about exactly what it is what my process was, and hope that'll come clearer. I'm going to jump to another 1 or 2 questions first and let you know why I'm doing so. The next question was, do you actually need to put in any money, or every time someone purchases, do they print the book? So that's a great question. Do you need to put in any money? And the answer is no, you don't need to put in any money. Everything that I'll be showing you is completely free for you to put your book together and to get it onto Amazon. There are times that it might be beneficial to invest a little bit of money, and I'll explain as we go along where that might be beneficial and what I've discovered as to why. And then it's up to you to decide whether you have the budget. For me right now, the bulk of the expense comes in with some of our books. We've actually started outsourcing for some of the covers, but the majority of the covers we've done ourselves. So there's potential to invest something for the cover design. The majority of the money that I'm investing right now goes to more promoting of the book. But let's go back to that question of how I figured it out and start to get into how can you actually get a book onto Amazon. So as I said, my mother had a friend who'd published a book via CreateSpace. Now Amazon has a section that enables one to do self-publishing. It used to be called CreateSpace. A couple of years ago, I don't remember exactly when it was, CreateSpace changed to be KDP, which is Kindle Direct Publishing. So shortly we're going to look at how to set up an account and how to start doing things on KDP. But before we do so, a little bit of how I began to discover what to do, or how I figured it out, is I took a couple of books that were teenage novels, or as close to teenage novels, in our library as I could find. And here I'm going to show you a few things about my husband's book, because the question that had come in connected to my husband's book. And I started just browsing through and analyzing. So the first thing you'll find if you open up a book is you'll find, if you want to, a page for putting a dedication, or this book belongs to, or writing in your name, or whatever it is you want to do. So it's quite nice if you do something like that at the beginning. And then you find pages that relate to the title page, so the name of the book, and typically that gets repeated. It gets done a little bit smaller at the beginning, and then that gets repeated for your title page. And so I started analyzing the interior of the book and coming up with what kinds of details did I need to put together in order to format my mother's manuscript to become ready for print possibilities. So there's a lot of information that goes onto your copyright page. If you want to have any letters of approbation, they come in the front matter over there. Then you're obviously going to get contents, and if you do an introduction, and really the body of your book. Now, some decisions that you're going to need to make, which are beneficial to decide before you start even getting into uploading it to KDP, will be things like, what size font do you want to use? What type of font do you want to use? How are your chapters going to be set up? Because here you can see my husband hasn't left much space. He's put a nice little twill above and below the name of a Parshah, but some chapters will drop down a certain amount of space, and then you need to decide what space you're going to give in formatting your book. So how will the beginning of your chapter look? Are you going to have any indentations? You can see here in the paragraphs, my husband has everything positioned in such a way that it's all completely justified and the alignment on the side is completely aligned. But some people will indent the first word a couple of spaces, and that gives a certain style to your book. So what kinds of styles, what kind of formatting do you want? All of those things are going to be important. And if you take a couple of books and you do as I did, and you just browse through and come up with ideas as to what kinds of features do you want within the formatting part. We're going to get shortly, when I show my screen and I start walking you through how to upload a book to Amazon. It's not yet to Amazon, it'll be to KDP, and then through KDP it goes on to Amazon. I will explain a couple of things related to the interior, and but before you do so, it's very beneficial if you take a piece of paper, take a couple of books, and start looking through and seeing what are the details that you want for your book. Are you familiar with the different fonts, with why you might use one font over another font? What kinds of fonts are easier to read? What size font? Where you might want a larger font? Where do you want a heading? What will your heading size be? Do you want to have sections? All those kinds of decisions. Do you want acknowledgements? Who will you be acknowledging? All of those kinds of decisions you can jot down on a piece of paper and have that available for you, or in a notebook, or open up a file, a document on your computer and put all that information together. And then once you start actually formatting the book, it becomes a whole lot easier. We're going to get shortly to look at the front I'll share the screen and we can look at some details there. We're going to chat a little bit more about the formatting as we go on to the other side. Before we go any further, let me share the screen and walk you through what you can do to be able to prepare a book for KDP. A little bit more you'll see as to what KDP is when I share the screen. And as I say, if you have any other questions, you can put them in the comments below or send me an email, and I'll see what I can do to answer it in another video. So let's jump on the other end of the screen and I'll see you soon. So here we are on the other side of the camera, and here you can see my screen. If you start with a Google search and you type in KDP, obviously you want to click that, and here you'll find self-publishing, Amazon Kindle Direct Publishing, which, as I said, KDP is Kindle Direct Publishing. So you're going to click on that and you're going to open up an account. And once you have an account, we'll show you what the next step is. If I click on that, I already have an account, so it goes directly to my account, but you're not going to see all of what I'm doing. I'm going to show you just what's available for anybody else. So once you have your account, over there you can see it says your account. Here you'll have bookshelf, reports, community, marketing, and that's it. And you'll see at the top here, you can have the language that you want, English or other languages, help, sign out, and giving feedback. So that's the start of the KDP page. Here you'll see that there's some changes taking place to the royalties, which I need to go in and read a little bit more about. I haven't completed doing that. And there's also submissions. This is something new of a KDP literary prizes that you can ignore for now. What we're going to do is we're going to start with looking at creating our book. And as we go along, I'll be explaining to you certain things you need to be preparing in advance and certain things you can even start setting up right from the initial stage, from the get-go, as they say, and go back and fill in the other details that you need as you're ready to do so. So let's go to Create, press on that yellow button, and here you have three options. You can do a Kindle ebook, you can do a paperback, and you can do a hardcover, and all three of these are actually interlinked. So once you start creating the one, you can go to and proceed to create the next one. If we have a look over here, it says learn about the publishing process, and this gives you quite a lot of information that's very useful, especially if you're new. So you can click on that. You can get to see your content guidelines. You can have the possibility for creating a series as well. One of my mother's books is now a series, and so we do have a series out. Let's go to the content guidelines for a minute. And over here, you're going to see quite a lot of useful options for you on the left-hand side in the left-hand margin. So here under book formatting, if you go to format your paperback, you can do it hardcover as well. I'm not differentiating at this stage as to whether it's paperback or hardcover, but here you can see also a lot more further information for you. It gives you a lot of information as to how to be formatting your interior. And further down, you can see here also formatting your cover. If you click over here, you can see that there's options for you which explains to you how to do the trim size, what the bleed is, how to do the margins. All of that is explained for you. There is also an option here. You can see some videos which are available for you to work through, to watch. I didn't actually watch any of these videos when we did our first books. I've gone back and looked at some of the videos, but actually I want to improve some of what I'm doing, so I'm going to go back and look at those, hopefully, Blineda. Here you can see download a Microsoft Word template. So let's have a look at that. And you'll see that there are options for you to be able to choose your template. And you can have either a blank template or something that includes some buddy sample text. And over there's, I think, about 11 chapters that are pre-laid out for you already. It's all done in Microsoft Word. I'm finding that some of this pre-prepared template can be a little bit temperamental at times. So I'm considering whether to set up my own template. And if you want to do so and you're getting stuck, you can either go back and look through all of the information available in this section where it says to you how to set up the trim size the margins and so on, or you can use an AI tool like ChatGPT, which gives you quite a lot of information and quite a lot of guidance, or have a look at a YouTube tutorial which can give you some more information. Now, another option that I'm considering, and this is where I've said that you might need to get to certain expenses to put aside or to allocate, is that I'm finding with some of the books and manuscripts that we're working on preparing for printing and for publishing, that I want to improve certain details within the formatting and within the styles, and I'm considering obtaining Affinity Publisher. There is also an opportunity to use InDesign, which is from the Adobe Creative Suite. The thing about the Adobe Creative Suite, or if you're purchasing InDesign, is you have to pay a membership, or you have to purchase it for a year and then renew that each year, and that can become quite costly. Using Affinity Publisher is a one-time payment, which is relatively affordable. I think it's about $69. I haven't used it yet. I haven't really explored it yet, but you can do everything we've done up until this point has been done completely using these free templates and using also tutorials that I've found on YouTube. So that's a little bit about preparing the interior. If you use the fonts that are already set in within the Buddy sample template, that's over here, this one, it does give you a lot more sizes. If we have a look over there, see what happens when we click download. It does give you a whole lot of different sizes, from a pocket size all the way through to 8.5 times 11. I don't know if it goes any bigger than that. I have to look at my list. I have downloaded it myself previously and I use it quite a bit. But if you use the fonts that are already pre-programmed in and you stick to those, it's not as temperamental as if you start trying to alter and to use your own fonts. So that's a little bit about preparing the manuscript. We'll come back to that in a little bit. Let's close this down for a bit. Close that one also. And we're going to go rather to the creating your paperback. As I say, it's pretty much the same if you're going to be creating a hardcover. We'll come to that shortly. You're going to see over here that there are 3 tabs available for you. First, your paperback details, then your paperback content, and lastly, your paperback rights and pricing. So let's start with the first one. Always good to start at the beginning. And the first thing you want to do is just choose your language. So if you're doing it in English, English appears first, right up at the top. There are opportunities for all the different languages. If you want a different language, like Russian, for example. I know my friend is a Russian speaker. You can have a look where the Russian comes up, or what other languages are possible. We're using English, so let's go back to English. And the next thing you do is your book title and subtitle. Something you might want to do before selecting your book title is to go and have a look on Amazon, and you can have a look in the search within Amazon. If there's another book that's exactly the same, you might want to vary your title a little bit if there's something that's exactly the same, or alter it according to the subtitle. That's up to you. That comes partly to promoting. There are some benefits to trying to make your book title a little bit different. There's some interesting information that you can obtain if you do some research. I can get into doing that research in a different video if you're interested. For now, let's continue down preparing your paperback details. So once you've put in your book title, let's say, for example, it's my, what should we say, test book. And here we can say, what would you like as a a memoir, or you could say a novel. There are various details for the subtitle, and that you can research as well and have that information available before you put it in. This is one of the sections that once it's set in and you've pressed save, that can't be changed. A lot of the other details as you progress, you can change as you go along. So here you have to decide whether it's going to be a series or not, and that's optional. And you can start with a book and later on make it part of a series. So that's not set in stone. It's something that evolves and develops. Here you can put in whether it's an edition number or not. Again, that would relate to a certain extent as to if it's going to be a series or not. And here you can decide your author details, if you want any prefix. That would usually be if it's a rabbi, for example, or a doctor. And then your first name, middle name, last name, and if you have any suffix at all. That's pretty self-explanatory, so I'm not going to fill that in. If there are any contributors, if you've done this together with anybody, like for example, if you have a co-author, a ghostwriter sometimes will be listed as being a co-author. So if you've told over your story to somebody else who's then prepared it for you and you want to list that as a contributing author, then that information will be here. And that's pretty self-explanatory, so we're not going to do that. Here you come to your description, and for your description, if that's this little book is to demonstrate how to prepare a book. Let's clarify that and say on KDP. Over here on the description, where did we get to? Here we go. In the description, you can also write some other details like the size of the book. This book is 6 times 9. It's often done in inches. I work in centimeters, but in Amazon, I tend to use the inches because since we tend to sell more in America, I use the inches. Takes a little bit of getting used to, but 6 by 9 is the size of my husband's book, and it's quite a popular size, so that's the size that we go with. And if you want to say, for example, it is 120 pages, I have to look at how many pages my husband's book actually is, but for example, it's 120 pages. Any other information that you want to put into the description, that's where you can do so. There is some information related. If you hover on here, you can see more information. A box comes up with more information for you. And there's paragraph formatting. It used to be that you had to use HTML. I'm not sure, I haven't tried using it with this paragraph format, but it could be that that adds the HTML for you. So just play around with that and see where you come to. Now comes the next section, which is publishing rights, and here you have to click whether you own the copyright or whether this is something that's in the public domain. If you've written the book yourself, you've probably owned the copyright, so you'd click that box. Then comes an important section related to the primary audience, and here you have to say whether there's any explicit sexual images or title. If it isn't, and it's quite a straightforward book, you click no. Here you have the reading age, and there's an option, for example, 18 years plus and going up into adulthood, or if it's starting at a teenager could start to read the book, maybe you want to start at 13, you can decide what the age range is. And so another detail that's important to figure out before you even start doing uploading to KDP would be who is your target audience, and from there you'd know the age range. children's book presumably would be, my mother's book, for example, starts at 8 years old and it goes up to 12 years old. My husband's book is available from probably a bar mitzvah, bat mitzvah age, maybe somebody a bit younger, and all the way up to 18 plus. So there you have age ranges. Here you have to fill in what your primary marketplace is, and there are a few different options. So if you live in the UK, presumably you'd want to be selling within the UK, although some people say that because Amazon in America is larger, it might be more popular, so they want to have their primary marketplace in America. That would be Amazon.com. It's a decision for you to make. You can see that there are a number of different options available. So decide and set. I usually set to Amazon.com. That's that field over there. Then you come to categories, and here you will find that there are, I think, 3 options of categories for you. And if you click on there, if you click on the choose categories, it will tell you, it will give you some options as to what kinds of book category you wanted to go into. Children's book, adventure story is a kind of a category, religious book, research or Parshah, theology, memoirs. You'll have a look through the categories and see what comes up as being most suitable for your book. Here you have to state whether your book is low content or large print book. If you're preparing a book to be available for somebody who has visual problem, you'd want a large print book. It's actually quite a good idea to have another option of your book which would be available for large print. We haven't yet done so, but here would be a box to tick if you have. And low content would be something like your notebooks, something that's a repeated page. So if it's plain lines and people fill in their own details, then that would be what you fill in over there. Be careful that if your book is a high content book, for example, it's a story, it's a memoir, it's a novel, information, a full book that you're going to be reading, that would be a high content book. So make sure that then you do not click that box, because if you click it accidentally, you have to land up republishing. So be careful as to when to click the various boxes. Here we come to keywords, and you could put in this little book that I was doing, the test book would be, a keyword would be indie author. That would be a short keyword. If you want to do long tail keywords, that would be more of a concept or book about how to prepare your manuscript for print. Or that would be too long, it won't fit in, so you'll have to play around with the words and see. You get 7 boxes here that you can fill in, and you can fill in as many keywords as you like. One thing that's very nice about the keyword section is if you start using the Amazon ads, which I do on a few of our books, not on all of them, but I have some of the books have an Amazon ad campaign, you'll start to find which keywords are more relevant, or people are searching for certain words, and it might give you an idea, and you can come and alter these keywords later on. So that's something that is possible to alter as you progress in your journey of having a book up on KDP. Here you'd fill in if it has a publication date. If your book has been previously published, then it might have a publication date. If not, then it's publication date, release, that are data the same. This basically means that KDP would be putting in the date as to when they first publish it for you. So you click the box that's there. If you do a revision of a book, then it would be previously published. So now, here you would also release date. You could put schedule my book's release. And then you either save it as draft if you're busy working through this information and all of this as you're working concurrently with preparing your interior and your cover design, then you can save that as a draft. If you're ready, you can press save and continue and go on to the next section. So let's see what happens if you do save. If you do save and continue, it'll automatically go to the next section. Here I haven't filled in all the words, so it's not taking me to the next section. It wants me to complete. So you have to complete the full page over there before you can go on to the next section. As you go through the next section, I'll cut this shorter, this little video shorter. It is fairly self-explanatory as you go through everything. The paperback content information, this is where you're going to find it's going to ask you for ISBN number, and here's another opportunity as to where you can either use a free ISBN number available from Amazon, which it will assign to you as you click the box, or you can have the opportunity to purchase an ISBN number of your own. If you're wanting to do something like publish your book via Ingram Spark together with KDP, then you would be wanting to purchase your own ISBN number, and that you'd need to know. It's another detail to research before you start. Here in the paperback content, you'd be uploading your interior of your manuscript, setting the size, deciding whether it's going to be black on white, black on cream paper, or you're going to be doing it in full color. And then you also get the opportunity to look inside at the interior and see how it's coming out if it was to be printed. That's quite fun to be able to do so, the look inside, the opportunity that's there. Here you have paperback rights and pricing. So for example, if you were to set a book at, for example, $9.99, it will automatically reset all of the pricing for if your book was to sell in the UK or in Europe or in Canada or somewhere else. And you have the opportunity of the expanded distribution. Most of the information on these two tabs are pretty self-explanatory. If you have other questions, I can try to do another video to show that a little bit more, and perhaps prepare one of my more simple, low content books that I'll upload as we go, and you'll be able to see more of that happening. So that's how you would upload the book. Some other details that you might want to know. Let's think if you need this. Yes, there are a few things here in the community. If you want to discuss, if you have a question or something you're not sure about, there is a community you can join and you can ask certain questions. You can also browse questions that have already been asked, and you can have a look at what the answers are or join in the discussion. So that's quite helpful. Here there's some tips related to marketing. The reports will obviously show you what royalties you're receiving, and this answers the question as to whether the book is, do you have to purchase any copies of the book, or is it printed only when you sell a copy? And you have two options available. You can order author copies and have those available that either you give to friends as gifts, or you can send to a friend an author copy, or to somebody else. If you're promoting a specific book, you can be able to send that to somebody by ordering copies, and you can order up to a certain amount. I forget whether it's 99 copies you can order at a time or 999. You'd have to check that figure as you come into the next section and you start ordering your copies. So also in the reports, you'd be able to then see that shows your royalties only, and the royalties that you get depends on what the price is that you set for your book, that Amazon then deducts its own expenses for the publishing of your book and for the shipping of your book. And yes, your book is predominantly printed only when somebody makes a purchase, unless you're going to order some author copies, or for example, if somebody purchases, like one friend of us purchased 10 copies of my husband's book that he then put in his synagogue, in his shul, and all 10 copies were printed at the same time, but they all then went to the shul. So that's how the printing happens. I hope that answers. You're not needing to outlay upfront, for example, $5,000 in order to order, I don't know, X amount of copies of the book and start putting that into certain stores. So that all happens print on demand. Here also is another important, the help section gives you the opportunity, as you click on help, you'll be able to see an opportunity to chat with somebody online or to receive a phone call. And if you're in America, I think that becomes much easier. They're very, very helpful the majority of the time. If I send a question, most of the time I can chat to them online, or sometimes it goes to an email and they'll send back an answer as to whatever my question was. You might find some of the help center, some of the calls are not only in America, they have certain centers elsewhere in the world. Like, for example, we'll end up speaking to somebody in South Africa, which is quite amusing sometimes. That I hope has answered the majority of how to set up your book. And once it goes live, once you're happy with your book and you put it up to go live, to be published, KDP will then review your book, which takes anything up to approximately 72 hours. Sometimes it's a couple of days, 5 days, for example, and they then will give you any feedback if there's anything in the formatting that is problematic that you need to go and revise and improve, and they'll tell you what it is you need to correct. Or if they're happy with it, it will go back up and be available. It will go up and be published, and from there it goes into Amazon. Now, once it goes to Amazon, people purchase from Amazon, and if you were to do an ad campaign, you'd be seeing the sales price coming into the Amazon ad campaign. You'll see that sales price, plus in the reports here, you'll see what your actual royalties are, and those figures will obviously be different because your royalty won't be the sales price. So that's a little bit about how your book gets sold. Obviously, there's a lot more to say regarding marketing and potential with marketing and promotion. I'm going to stop sharing the screen for a moment. There we go. Answer a question related to sponsorship, and the benefit of having sponsorship is it gives you the potential to have some budget to be able to promote your book in a number of different ways. So some of the ways that are possible, you'll see on our YouTube channel that every little while I have a video that relates to the book and talks about the book, and that's an opportunity to put the link to the book as it's found on Amazon, to put it in the description below, and to put the book visible in your YouTube video. Those are ways of promoting your book. Other ways of promoting your book, as I mentioned, was through Amazon ad campaign. You might want to be giving out books to get reviews. You might be wanting to give books to friends or to put into shuls, or into school libraries, depending on the type of book that you're bringing out. This comes to a whole lot of different options as to how you're going to be promoting your book. And the more budget you have available, the more creative you can get as to how you're going to be promoting your book. Also, the larger crowd that you have, the more opportunities that you have for promoting your book. Now, some of the things related to sponsorship, I haven't quite finalized how to work the pricing of if somebody was to to become a sponsor, either a company or an individual. For example, if somebody's wanting to sponsor in the merit of an Aliyah Neshama, for the Neshama of somebody who's passed on, they might want to be giving a sponsorship, a dedication in your book, and that would be either a half page or a full page that says this book is dedicated to, or with thanks to family X in the merit of Ploni Ben Ploni, who, for an Aliyah Neshama, that's one example of a sponsorship. And that would give you, for example, if they sponsor, they get their name in on the full page, and that gives you maybe $2,000 or $5,000, depending on how many books you bring out, depending on how you're going to be promoting your book. That's a little bit about sponsorship. I haven't done that in our books. It's something that is potential. I did actually start to network with companies related to occupational therapy for my book that explains occupational therapy. I did send out quite a number of emails to companies with occupational therapy equipment that I thought might be related to the book and have an interest in promoting occupational therapy. I haven't yet been successful. I haven't got that sponsorship, but that is an opportunity for how to be able to fund promoting your book and being able to have a little bit more spending money for whether you want to get your own ISBN number, or if you want to do publishing your book with Ingram Spark together with Amazon. It then goes on to Amazon and some other expanded distributions, some other opportunities into bookstores and so on through Ingram Spark. Those are options and opportunities. Ingram Spark used to have a sign up that you had to pay up front. Sometimes they waiver that. Sometimes that goes on special. I don't know where that's at the moment. You'd have to look and research that for yourself. Something else I mentioned as another potential expense is if you're going to be using either InDesign or Affinity Publisher instead of using the ready-made template. But if you give a try to the free templates that's available and see whether that answers your questions, whether that meets your need, you might not need to be upgrading to be using something that has more formatting styles and opportunities available for you. It depends on what kind of book you're going to be publishing as to what kind of style, what kind of details you want in your interior. And also in the book cover, there are opportunities that you can create your own book cover using something like Affinity Publisher, I believe, has something fairly similar to Photoshop or the Illustrator. I haven't tried it, I haven't looked into that, but that is one option. Something else you can do is you can try and create your cover on Canva. There are certain free opportunities available. I've done quite a lot on Canva. I'm not an expert, so I don't know whether I could be teaching so much, but I could show you what it is that I've discovered so far. So Canva is an opportunity and a potential to use. And Canva does have quite a lot of templates that you can then customize. Another opportunity I mentioned using ChatGPT, and that does give you some ideas as to what would be a suitable cover, and then you can go and try and create it within Canva. So that's one option for you. If you get stuck with creating your cover design, or you're really not sure what the cover should look like or how to make it look more professional or perhaps a little bit more modern, depending on what kind of feel you're wanting for your book, there is an opportunity to outsource on Fiverr, for example, and that would be an expense that you would put into your budget. So everything depends on how creative you are, what tech skills you have. If you don't have tech skills, to what extent are you prepared to play around and to learn? I've learned everything as I go, as I improve or as I find a need. I find a tutorial and I learn and I tweak or I improve, or I go back, or I ask a question in the community, ask a question in a tutorial, or ask a question to an AI like Copilot or ChatGPT, which I found to be quite useful if I've got stuck in any of the details, whether it's the formatting, the description, what keywords to use, all of those kinds of things. You can find quite a lot of useful information, and you can outsource depending on what your budget is. So I hope that this little video has given you a lot of information as to how to get started. I've learned on the go, and it's possible to learn on the go. And the more that you're prepared to experiment and to play around with the technical opportunities that are available in today's time, the more that you can grow and you can improve as you go along. Something that you can do if you're unsure but you're wanting to get into preparing a book is you can start really simple by uploading a low content book, and as you go along you can be able to learn details related to the formatting. You can learn how to structure your front page, you can learn how to figure out how many pages to have, how the size would work, how the margins are set, what does the bleed mean. All of these details you can learn as you starting off with your low content book, and concurrently working up to bringing your high content or medium content, depending on what kind of book it is, bringing that book out to be available to publish. I hope that's answered your questions. I hope that if you have any other questions, you'll put it into the comments below. And I look forward to hearing how this has helped you or what other questions you have. And I wish you a lot of hatzlacha, a lot of success in bringing your book out and joining in the journey of being an indie author or of doing a book. It's a lovely way to be able to do something to bring merit or honor to somebody who's passed on from this world, or to build a legacy. My late grandfather wrote a memoir for his family that was self-published, that he paid to publish a certain amount of copies that were given out to various relatives and friends. That's one way of doing it. But in today's time, with things like KDP, you don't have to outlay upfront. So take advantage of the opportunity and enjoy the process. Till next time, I look forward to seeing you in another video or to hearing what questions you have. Ciao for now. Have a very blessed day.